Hi, everyone. This is Michele Graglia.
This is Madeline Hawkins.
Hi, I'm Adrian McDonald.
I'm Katie Asman.
Hi, this is Anthony Gasals.
Hi, my name is Meg Morgan.
Hey, it's Jordan Trove.
This is John Ray.
This is Ryan Van Duzer, and you are listening to the Gotta Run Racing Podcast.
Hey everyone, we're back with another Gotta Run podcast.
Hello, hello.
And we're back with a good one for you today.
Sure do, but before we get to our guest, what's going on? We're working on our races for the season, which are Rainbow Trail Run, June 14, and Island Lake Classic, Labor Day Monday.
Yes, come on out.
Registration's open, raceroster.com or via our website, Gotta Run Racing.
We're also going to be at Sulphur Springs.
We are. We're going to be at the finish line, welcoming runners as they cross.
Earning their tickets to Western States, 100 mile, 100K, getting it done.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing and being in our community once again. It's been a long winter.
It has for sure. And the Canyons has just finished up. It was an exciting time there.
Yeah, we had quite the stacked field of Canadian women, did we not?
Sure did. We had Jasmine Lowther,
Elsa McDonald,
Arden Young,
Prissy Forgy,
and earning her ticket to Western States again,
woohoo!
Marianne Hogan.
Amazing. And have we not had all of those wonderful ladies on our podcast?
Sure have. Over the years, we've chatted to every one of them, and they were stacking the field in the 100K at Canyons. However, we have a top Canadian in the 100-miler.
Yes, another female climbing the ranks quickly, and that is Madeline Hawkins, 37-year-old real estate lawyer from Vancouver. She's pretty new to the ultra scene. According to Ultra Signup, it looks like she started in 2021, but we'll definitely ask her how and when she started running. She's been making a name for herself, winning Fat Dog 100K last year, and she placed 8th at Chiang Mai 100K in Thailand last December, which earned her a spot at this year's CCC in Chamonix.
Nice.
Nice is right. And recently, last week, 3rd at Canyons 100-miler, her first attempt at that distance.
Oh, nice. Welcome to the club.
She's coached by the legendary Ellie Greenwood, who needs no introduction. And with Ellie guiding her, we are sure we'll see a lot more of her in the coming years.
And without further ado, here is Madeline Hawkins coming up. So welcome, Mads, to the podcast. And big congrats on coming in 3rd at the Canyons. Has that sunk in yet?
Yes, it has. I'm still over the moon, though. It was a really great race, so I've just been basking in it all week. Yeah.
You're relatively new to the ultra scene, so let's have our listeners get to know you better. First, tell us how you even started running.
I started running as a little kid, so cross country in elementary school, and then just casually. My family was pretty active. We did lots of outdoors activities, and so my parents were always encouraging my sister and I to get out on bikes and go running. And then I just kept running pretty casually, but regularly, multiple times a week for my whole, all through my teens and into my adult life. And then I want to say it was maybe around 2018, I tried my first ultra, just completely unprepared. I threw myself into it thinking, oh, this is going to be great fun. And it was. But just with career and other priorities, it took me a while to really be able to make the space for properly training and really making it a top priority. So I did a few casual ultras locally for a few years, sort of here and there. And then I want to say about last year, I started working with a new coach and decided to just really take the training seriously and give it my best, and started getting some good results and completely fell in love with it.
That's awesome. So I assume you started on roads. What actually took you to trails?
So I did my undergraduate degree at SFU, Simon Fraser University in British Columbia, and there's a lot of trails surrounding that campus.
Right.
So I just sort of organically started running on the trails because they were right there.
Yeah.
And a few other people were doing that as well. And then I thought, well, this is a much better way to run. It's beautiful. It's, you're running in the forest. So after that, I moved to the city for a while, but I would travel over to North Van with my friends, and we would just go on fun adventure trail days. So it was usually a weekend thing at that time until I moved closer to the trails. But it was a group of us just started doing it as a fun weekday activity to get out. And some, sometimes it would be hiking, but we would sort of throw in little runs here and there when we could. And then it evolved into something more dedicated after that.
Right. So you jumped right up to a 50K as your first big race?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah. My husband thought it was a terrible idea. He's like, you're not prepared for this. You're not trained. And then I wound up coming in second and he's like, oh no.
You showed him.
Yeah.
Does he run as well?
He doesn't. He has done trail running over the years just casually, but much shorter distances. He's actually more of a mountain biker. So he's very supportive of my running, but he has no desire to run the distances that I want to run. He's head crew. He comes with me and he's my sort of head crew, manages me, makes sure everything goes smoothly.
Nice. Well, you need that.
Yes. Yeah. He's very good at it.
It's good to have a good support behind you in the ultra world.
It's sometimes harder if both of you want to do the race because then you don't have crew.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, who's going to get the support? Yeah.
And then you upped your game. You took on Squamish 50-50. Did you enjoy the stage race type atmosphere of doing one, then the next day the other?
Yeah, I thought it was really great. I was very unprepared for that race. I had not been doing my long runs and I kind of just threw myself into that. I actually finished the first day thinking I was not going to do the second day. And then I woke up and I sort of tested out the legs a little. I was like, yeah, okay, let's go. In the future, I would love to be more prepared and try something like that again, though, because it was really neat. I mean, it's much harder in some ways to go get some rest and then wake up and continue versus just running all that distance in one go. But it was also a really fun way to get in a long run.
I'm sure it's a high percentage of the people that enter the 50-50 that think the next day, there's absolutely no way I'm going to do this. But then they do it anyway and realize, oh, it wasn't so bad. It's the first maybe 5K that hurt the most. And then you're back into the groove, right?
Yeah, they say the first 10K, if you get past that, you're most likely going to finish.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now you alluded to a new coach who we know is Canadian Ellie Greenwood. She wasn't your first coach. You had a coach previous to that?
Yeah, so my physiotherapist, Carly Foster, was my first coach. I had a stress reaction in my tibia, and she does mostly coaching for rehab for getting athletes back into sport. So she helped me go from a quite injured athlete who was doing everything wrong and get me going on a good, solid program so that I could run well and not be injured. And so she helped me get to my first 50 miler at the Squamish 50 miler in that October, very rainy race. So I did that. So she was technically my first coach and she's still my physiotherapist. She's excellent.
That's awesome. I think it's interesting that you've almost had a coach your entire running career, which obviously has made a huge impact on you because you've risen in the ranks quite quickly. So that speaks to having a coach.
I really enjoy working with a coach. I know a lot of people who do pretty well planning their own runs, but even just earlier this year, I was dealing with a couple little, not injuries, but things that were threatening to be injuries. And both Ellie and Carly were excellent at adapting things continuously. And so that I actually didn't get injured. And I'm now happy to say finished Canyons completely injury free. So I don't think I could have done that on my own. And I was really grateful to have somebody to help me adapt and, make sure my training was still helping me progress towards my goals of getting faster and completing the races as best I could, but at the same time doing so in a way where I wasn't coming out of them injured and now prepared for the next thing.
Right. That's awesome.
Yes, because you go into Fat Dog, winning Fat Dog. I mean, what a boost of confidence you must have had. All that hard work now paying off.
Wow, that's a tough race. My gosh.
Yeah, it was a great day. It was a bit of a surprise. I actually was not expecting to run it that fast. So my husband was showing up at the aid stations just in time because he was like, "You're supposed to be way slower."
Well, tell us a little bit more about Fat Dog.
Yeah, so that was my first step up to the 100K distance. It's a beautiful course out in Manning Park. It was just one of those days where I felt great from almost start to finish. Beautiful trails, and I was able to sort of go at a pace that surprised me. There were thunderstorms for about 5 hours of that race, and I'm very, very, very afraid of thunderstorms. I have some experience just from traveling in the backcountry years and years ago, getting caught out in thunderstorms. So I actually spent a bunch of the race just quietly talking to the clouds in a way it was making me feel better. I'd go, "Who's a grumpy cloud?" And it would roar back at me, just to try and maintain a sense of humor about it and keep in good spirits. But it was a little intimidating, so I was pretty happy to get off the ridge lines, and then the thunderstorms thankfully disappeared. But it definitely made for an exciting day, and I felt pretty proud of having conquered that and, managing to stick with my race plan despite the very distracting, angry storm clouds above. And the race actually finishes with a big climb, and I actually was lucky enough. My husband did pace me for this. I finished it at sunset. So we got to the top of this big climb with these beautiful views. The storm clouds had disappeared, and it's just gorgeous, glowing sun. And I was like, okay, this is the perfect way to end this race. And then we just ran the last 7K or whatever it was downhill to the finish line. So it was a very magical race.
Well, I think what made you run it so fast was all the thunderstorms around you.
I think so. I think so.
Did you lead that entire race, Maddie?
I did. Yeah. From the first aid station I was in first was much more, we were all a little tighter together at that point. And then from that aid station to the next, I guess about 68K, I put in quite a gap and then was in the lead. But I actually, because of the service and the access to communications on that course, I actually didn't know.
Right.
So for all I knew, second place and third place were right behind me. So I had to just sort of keep running keep giving it my best as though they were right there.
Yeah. But you must have spent the majority of that race by yourself then.
I did. Yeah.
Can you describe that feeling? Because
it feels like you're not even in a race anymore.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there were a few other people that were doing the 120 miles and then a couple people in the 40 miles. So occasionally I'd check out bibs. Okay, that's not my bib, but yeah, it's quite a feeling because it's almost a bit hard to figure out how to motivate. I mean, you're obviously trying to run as fast as you can, but at the same time, you're trying to make sure you're pacing yourself properly and not having anyone around. There's definitely been times where I thought, am I off course? Like, am I still going in the right direction? And getting to the aid stations often provides a bit of comfort. Like, no, yep, you're doing the right thing. But I find I just really get in my own head and almost just get in the zone of what my body is physically doing.
Right.
And so, having had that similar experience at Canyons where I was by myself a lot of the race, I really just get in my focus zone and the time moves very differently versus when there's other people around.
Yeah, for sure. Do you wear music when you run on a race?
I don't. No. I often have the Shocks headphones that where you're able to hear everything else, other runners and things around you, but I've never actually put them on. So I often bring them just in case, but I find my brain in a race is just very focused on the small things, like making sure my feet are landing well and my pace is good, or focusing on my running cadence or what's around me. And it's pretty meditative for me. So I'll actually listen to music quite a bit while training, but even while training lately, I found myself taking the headphones off and just listening to what's going on around me and really focusing on sound of my feet hitting the ground. It's quite a nice meditative experience.
Yeah, and I think for anybody in BC and Alberta, it's not wise, even with Shocks, which are awesome headphones, because you kind of need to listen for bears.
Yes. Yeah, or cougars. Yeah.
It's not something we have to necessarily worry about here, but I would be thinking about it every moment if it was out west for sure. Anyways, so last December, you took on a really packed international field at the Chiang Mai 100K. in Thailand, of course. So what did that feel like standing on the start line with this international field of runners?
So that was my first time with an elite bib. Again, kind of took me by surprise because this was all coming as a result of my one race at Fat Dog. So I had a bit of that sort of imposter, like, am I sure? Like, is everyone sure I'm supposed to be here? I got invited to the media day. They're like, bring your run manager. I was like, okay, well, I'll bring my husband. He's happy to manage me. But this seems far more serious than I'm sort of deserving. But, it was great because I got to start with all of these incredible runners and I actually finished that race feeling, okay, I think I do belong here. I got 8th women, did pretty well in the overall field. And it wasn't a great day for me physically. I was just feeling a bit off. And it's very, very hot and humid in Thailand. It was also a time of year where back home it was very cold and rainy and dark. So it was a bit of a shock for my body.
Yes.
But I managed to just sort of stick to the plan and get it done. And that was a race where I knew that even if things weren't quite perfect, I could just execute, which made me feel like, okay, here's some of the consistency that's showing up here, even on a day that's not so great. But I ran the entire race with another amazing runner, and her and I basically just yo-yoed back and forth for the entire thing. We finished 5 minutes apart.
Nice.
And so that was really great because we've kept in touch and just supporting each other with our goals since then. And so it actually turned out to be a pretty amazing experience.
Nice.
I was going to say that because the women 8, 9, 10, you're only 20 minutes apart and you're fighting for top 10 because top 10 gives you something. We'll talk about that soon. So did you know where you were with this fight going on?
Yeah. So at first I knew I was outside of the top 10, and I actually told my husband to not tell me about positions for a bit. I said, tell me at the last crewmate station, which I think is about 65K. And this was also Ellie's recommendation. She's like, for a big chunk of the race, you've just got to run your own race. So I'd sort of let go of that idea in my head. That was, of course, the goal going in. But I managed to just get my head into, okay, what are we doing? What's the race? Getting sort of back to what I was mentioning before about the small things. Like, okay, eating, how are my feet moving, focusing on what's going on around me. And so I managed to do that until that 60, 65K mark. And then my husband said, well, you and Simone was the other woman I was running with. You guys are 9, 10, and there's, about a 20-minute gap to 11.
Okay.
And so at that point, we both sort of looked at each other. We're like, great, let's get this done in one piece. We've got this. We just have to keep going. And I was pretty confident I had the stamina left to be able to keep going at my pace. And so I was feeling much better about hanging on to that spot. So, and then at that point, I think somebody else dropped out for injury or some other reason. And so we ended up 8, 9.
So what actually led you to choose this race? Because that's quite a bit out of your comfort zone. As you said, cold and rainy Vancouver, jumping right into hot and humid Thailand. At the end of the season, what led you to choose it?
A few reasons. I felt like because I'd only just done Fat Dog, and that was my, I guess I call it an A race, and it had gone so well, I wanted to test it out at another race that year before jumping into the 2025 season. I also wanted to give myself a shot at getting into CCC, which the top 10 get into CCC. So now I'm doing that this year, which is really exciting. And I'd actually heard from other people in BC that this was a really great race. So I'd heard of the woman who won the 100-miler a couple of years ago, got a golden ticket to Western States, Jenny Quilty. And so, I reached out to her. I was like, how was it? And she said it was amazing. And, I thought, yeah, why not? This is a good chance to just, have one more big race this year. And Ellie also thought it would be great to get another 100K, that's the tough one, under my belt before the 100-miler.
Right.
And it was a good amount of distance between the races. So thought, yeah, sure, why not? Let's go to Thailand.
I hope you got to enjoy some downtime after the race and have a Thai massage.
I did get a Thai massage. Unfortunately, not a ton of time after the race because we wanted to prioritize getting there earlier to get accustomed to the heat and have lots of time to settle in. But I would definitely go back. Thailand's amazing.
Yeah. Those Thai massages are pretty intense. I hope
they are very intense. And I did get one after the race. I was like, this is too much.
I can't imagine having one after a race. Oh, man.
Yeah, maybe better for a few more days out.
For sure. So how excited are you to be heading to Chamonix in August? Have you guys checked out our merch via our website, Gotta Run Racing? We have some really cool swag, including the mugs that, if you've watched our YouTube video, that we drink with. Cool red mug with a cork bottom. It keeps liquids nice and cold or warm. What else do we have on there, Norm?
Well, we have our shirts that I'm wearing.
That's right. You can either choose from GottaRunPodcast or Gotta Run Racing. You can also find our 20-liter dry bags, which are a steal at $25. Perfect for using at drop-off bag at an aid station. We've got flasks. We also have cooling multifunctional neckwear, which is a fancy word for a cooling buff. Has the Gotta Run Racing and podcast logos on it. Not to mention, we have the affiliate links for the 3 companies, for the 3 brands that we are affiliated with, that being Air Relax, Compression Therapy, Caffeine Bullet, and Kinesis Sunscreen. So by following those links, you can access exclusive discounts. So do check that out, GottaRunRacing.com.
Very excited. That's obviously one of those races that I think a lot of people aspire to do. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time in Chamonix.
Oh, nice.
To adjust to the altitude and spend some time on the trails. A friend and I are doing the full TMB course in a 6-day training week.
Oh,
So that'll be a good way to see the course and also just have fun, enjoy being out there and in the mountains. And I'm also excited for, what I'm sure will be a very exciting week of a lot of hype, a lot of big famous racers. There was a little bit of that at Canyons, of course, too. But this should be a really fun way to sort of get involved in the sport and see it at its peak.
absolutely.
Well, someone who's done the entire course, the section from Courmayeur to Chamonix is the best part.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, you got lucky there. But you'll find that out on your own when you hike it.
Yes. Yeah.
So how long are you planning on spending?
So we're doing the TMB course, flying out for that end of July.
Oh, nice.
And then we'll be there afterwards. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So lots of time to settle into Chamonix and really enjoy it.
Amazing. Great. Well, we'll be following along for that for sure. So let's move on to Canyons, your first 100-miler.
Welcome to the club.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, was that a bug that Ellie placed in your ear? Because we know she's a big Western States fan and winner.
Yes. So it was actually my massage therapist who mentioned, because he had done Western States. He's like, oh, Canyons is like a lot of the Western States course. It's tough. And I was asking people in general about 100-milers and what would be a good first one to start. And he's like, well, that one is pretty good, but it's a little on the tougher side. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do it then. And then I raced it with Ellie, and she's like, yeah, that would be a great one. It was definitely a tough course, but I wanted a bit of a challenge for my first 100-miler. And of course, living in BC, I'm used to some vert. So I thought it would be really great to get some experience on that Western States course. It's so hard to get into Western States. So I figured this would be a really fun way to experience it in case I end up 8 years in the lottery after that.
Exactly. Be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the race starts at 12 noon, which is kind of an awkward time to start.
Yeah.
Was it pouring rain at that time? And tell us about the first 50K of this downpour.
Yeah, so it actually wasn't pouring rain for the start of the race. It was cold, foggy, very, very overcast. Kind of felt like a fall day in BC. Not warm. Everyone was wearing their full, their puffy jackets and their sweatpants to the last minute until the race started. But then once we got going, it was actually a perfect temperature. Great for running. It was really beautiful. It was actually quite nice too to get some of those big climbs out of the way without the heat. The rain didn't come in until I want to say maybe about 1 or 2 a.m.
Oh.
So we had a nice period of just good overcast weather that would be cold if you were standing around, but as long as you kept moving, it was actually pretty nice. So that first chunk, first 50K went by in a flash. It was like I blinked and it was over, and I was like, okay, well, I'm already at the 50K mark. So it was just really fun. Lots of people. At that point, I was racing with lots of people. So I had the, energy from aid stations and other runners, and coming into, I'm trying to remember the name of the aid station, but it's the first crew. I think it's about 40K mark. There was a lot of cameras everywhere and a lot of attention and excitement. And I think a drone followed me and Aroa out of the aid station as well. She ended up in second place. So there was a lot of excitement. So that time just flew by. And then sort of over the night time was when it really just became me on my own, just focusing on those little things, making sure I was getting through okay and not falling, which is kind of tricky in the night. There's lots of things to trip you. I think I fell in a swamp at one point and in a river. So it became the first for sort of, I'm going to say 50 or even 100K was a very different type of race. There was no rain. It was daylight for the most part, lots of people around. And then the nighttime was almost an entirely different race.
Wow.
So what part did you find yourself in third position?
I think so. I was running with a row, I want to say almost up to about 100K.
Okay.
And then she started to pull ahead and actually caught all the way up to first. She was incredible. Running with her was great. She has so much experience. And I was just kind of watching how she was tackling things and how she was just approaching different parts of the course. But so basically she caught up to first, and then I was really far ahead at that point, I think, from the rest of the women's field. So I knew at about that point that I was probably pretty comfortably in third. I knew my chances of catching first and second were pretty slim, and I knew that the chance that the people behind me were going to catch me were very slim. So I had to really stay motivated, focusing on what my time goals were. So I basically raced the clock from there, pretty confident that I was going to end up in third place unless anything crazy happened. So I just really focused on, okay, what's my time goal, making sure I keep pushing and don't get too comfortable, because I wanted to feel like I'd really left it all out there when I finished the race.
And what was your energy feeling like during the night with the rain and all of that? How were you feeling? Because you'd obviously gone through some pretty big climbs.
Was this the first time you're running through the night, I guess?
Yeah, first time.
Yeah, first time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd finished races in the dark, both in Thailand and at Fat Dog, but I've never run through the night. So I was really curious to see how that was going to go. My energy, I want to say the last marathon was pretty tricky. My energy mentally was decent, but my legs really started to give up on me. I actually my quads got so sore. Getting through the descents became really tricky. So a few things certainly started to unravel during that last marathon, but I think I managed the night aspect, no sleep, just running right through the night much better than I had anticipated. It was weird. It felt like one really weird long day when I was done.
So when the sun finally comes up, how much more K did you have to go at that point when the sun comes up?
I want to say maybe 20, 25.
Okay.
That's good.
All right.
Yeah.
So not a big chunk where you have to mentally wrap your head around, I got to go through another whole chunk of the day, which is great. And you've got third locked up, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think as the sun started to rise, I was very laser focused on, I'm just going to get this done as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Still motivated by getting a good time, but also motivated very much by the desire to lie down.
So what was the feeling of crossing the finish line of your first 100-miler like? Can you describe it
On the podium?
On the podium, yes.
Yeah. Oh, it was incredible. I mean, one final thing I want to share before I get to the finish line is that in the last 5K, the 50K run race had started. And so that the famous No Hands Bridge, they were coming across the No Hands Bridge as I was going the other way. And all of them started cheering me on and encouraging me. And it was like, I think my reaction was not very strong because I was so sapped for energy, but it was one of the most motivating, beautiful things because I just, all of them were like, great work, way to go. And it was the entire field that I got to cross that was encouraging me on. So that actually made a huge difference. I mean, I wish I could almost take the entire field and not thank them for that, because I was really just grasping for final pieces of energy there. And that actually encountering them at first, I was like, oh no, I have to you navigate this whole field of racers, but it actually ended up being really encouraging. So by the time I got to the finish line, I had a fair amount of enthusiasm back. I was feeling pretty excited, and you can hear the announcers coming around the corner, and I started seeing the big Hoka banners, and yeah, it was amazing. But crossing the finish line, I got all this new energy. I felt great. I was walking around. My thoughts about lying down. I was thinking I'm going to get to the finish line. I'm just going to crumble in a corner. Just lie on the cold, wet cement. And then of course you get to the finish line, and everything is so exciting. And I actually had all this energy. My husband has film of me. Okay, when do I go to UTMB and doing this interview, and yeah, so I actually managed to keep it together and really enjoy that moment. But getting the belt buckle was pretty exciting because I've most ultra runners, you get that 100-mile belt buckle. That's a pretty special experience.
And you got a ticket to Western States, so you're obviously going to put your name in the hat.
So yeah, for the lottery, yeah.
For the lottery, yeah. Very good.
Yeah, so I will, because I know also that it takes some time to get through that lottery. So yeah.
And you're going to CCC, like we said, this year. Are there any other bucket list races that you'd like to have in your resume?
I think UTMB. So for 2026, I have a spot. We'll see how CCC goes. I mean, I don't have to make a decision until later this year, but that's a big one too. I mean, that's a really tough 100-miler, but one I think a lot of people aspire to do at some point. But there's a few races I'm thinking about for next year. I haven't really figured out exactly what it looks like, but I've started thinking maybe New Zealand would be cool. Mm-hmm. It's fast, runnable, sort of a different type of course, but might be a fun start to the year. So started mulling that over a little bit.
So what are you feeling, the 100K or the 100-mile? What do you think is your magic spot?
Probably the 100-mile. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm just getting started with that one.
Yeah.
See, I mean, honestly, the only downside to the 100-mile is it's just so hard to do a lot of them. I finished that race going, okay, when's the next one? I'm like, it's probably next year. Shoot. I want to do it now. But I really, there is something really magical about that distance. And I just feel like there's so much left for me to discover. Still with the 100K, I'm definitely still going to do the shorter distances as well. I love the 100K distance, but I think the 100-mile sort of holds a special place for me in that I just think there's so much to discover there. And, we'll see if I end up going further. I mean, I don't know. The big barrier for me was running through the night. And now that I've done that comfortably, I think who knows where I'll go with that. But yeah, I'm certainly not done with that distance. And I plan to do quite a few more.
Awesome.
Well, a big congrats to you. And I have to say that in the 100K at Canyons, the women's field is very stacked with Prissy Forgy, Marianne Hogan, Elsa McDonald, etc.
Jasmine,
I have to say this, Mads. If you were in the 100K, you would have been right in the mix.
Yes, you would have.
Oh, thank you. That's the most flattering thing you could have said to me. Yeah, those women are absolutely incredible. I look up to them. I think they're amazing runners. So to be in the mix would be just fine with me. So thank you very much. That's very nice.
And what an inspiration for you as a 37-year-old to be just getting your name out there now. It's such a cool thing that women of this age and up are where the sweet spot is in terms of their peak. And I think we're pushing that number higher and higher as we go with especially endurance sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm increasingly inspired by the women who, even into their Aroa was in the 45 to 49 age category, and she was so strong and so inspiring. And I definitely came away from that race just in awe of her and really inspired to do the same. I think we're learning a lot more about, as women in particular, how to take care of ourselves well and have longevity in the sport and stay healthy. And we are different in a lot of ways from men. So there's some different strategies I think we need to employ. But as we learn more and more, I can see a lot of women they're able to stay in the sport for so much longer.
Yes.
And I certainly plan that for myself. I feel like I'm just getting started. Yes, I'm, obviously at latter half of my 30s, but I feel like now's the perfect time for me to do this. And I've got my career, my full-time career is at a place where I think I can manage these both well. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what the next few years hold.
We'll be watching. Well, before we let you go, we like to end with some rapid fire. So here we go.
Are you ready?
Perfect.
Are you ready? Yes. Okay. Butter tarts with or without raisins?
Raisins.
We have this
Extra
argument.
calories.
Yeah, there you go. What was the last concert you went to?
Oh, Taylor Swift Eras Tour in Brazil.
Oh, in Brazil.
In Brazil.
Oh,
What was that like?
Yeah. Amazing. I got right by the stage. Yeah, it was really up close. So it was incredible. I went to a few Eras Tour concerts, actually.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Rio or?
Rio.
Oh, man. How would you compare the Brazilian concert fans to Canadian?
Very enthusiastic. It was much less organized than like in Canada, you just have your assigned seats, right? Same with the US tour. But in Brazil, it was like this sort of, I guess there was a bit of a social system for who got to go to the front.
Whoa.
So we made a lot of friends, and the Brazilians were very enthusiastic and supportive. But yeah, you definitely had to make sure that you weren't going somewhere you weren't supposed to.
Yeah, I can imagine. That would be really intimidating.
It was a little bit, yeah. Yeah, but we have tons of photos. They ended up being so friendly, and we have all these photos of us just with all these Brazilian fans, and they're very, very enthusiastic.
Very cool. Do you have any tattoos?
I do. I have a lightning bolt after Fat Dog.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Conquered my fear.
That's great.
Just on my arm. Yeah.
What's your favorite junk food?
Gotta go with classic potato chips, salted potato chips.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with those. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, okay, that's a tough one. So we have a local ice creamery here in Squamish where I live called Alice and Brome, and they make a set of fruit ice creams. And so that they always have the fruit ones, and then they have special ones. So for my long-term true favorite, it's probably the raspberry ice cream they make. But they also make this ice cream called salted Scoreo, which is Oreo, Scorbits, salt in this ice cream mix, and it comes out usually in the fall. Say that's also high on the list.
That sounds amazing.
You have to fly there just to have it.
Yeah, really.
You should. It's incredible. They're very good.
Name a TV show that you're embarrassed to say you watch.
Embarrassed to say I watch.
Any juicy?
I watch a lot of comedy. Like I've seen Arrested Development. Oh gosh, probably. I wonder if I'm not embarrassed about that though.
No.
Any reality shows?
I have dabbled in reality shows, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, I have honestly. Okay, this is embarrassing. I have watched some seasons of Love Is Blind. That's pretty embarrassing.
We've watched all of them, Maddie. So
okay. I'm in good company.
Do you listen to Smartless?
I've listened to some of their episodes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because obviously 2 of them being from Arrested Development. Yeah. I love Jason Bateman. You can't beat that guy's humor.
No. Yeah. No, I agree. He's so funny. And yeah, they make comedy gold. So
Absolutely. All right, Norm, final question.
Pick a superpower that you'd like to have.
Superpower. Oh. Instead of picking the obvious, which is just running really, really fast, I'm gonna say flying. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That would be cheating in a race. So I'd still have to, be a normal human for that part of it. But yeah, being able to fly would be pretty neat.
Yeah, that's
the funny things. The Flash and Superman actually raced each other, and it was a tie.
Oh, well, there you go.
So it doesn't matter which one you pick.
Yeah, okay, great. New sport. You can fly the fastest.
There you go. All right, Maddie. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a lot of fun. And we wish you well in France coming up soon.
Well, Italy to France.
Well, Italy to France.
Yeah.
The finish line's in France.
Yes, that's true. Thank you so much. I listen to a lot of podcasts, So it's really fun to be on one. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely.
All right. All the best.
All right.
All the best. And hey,
Thank
perhaps
you.
we'll have you back on after CCC.
There you go.
That would be great. I would love that. It's been really nice chatting with you both.
Yeah, you too, Maddie. We'll stay in touch for sure.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Madeline Hawkins, another Canadian woman to watch on the big stage.
I know. I love it.
This is amazing.
Off to CCC in the coming months.
Which, living in Squamish, she's going to be having excellent training leading up to that, I'm sure. Spend the summer getting ready for that race.
And this was her first podcast, which is always great. We always love to have first-timers on our show.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, she's certainly making a name for herself, winning Fat Dog and getting into the top 10 at Chiang Mai in Thailand.
Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed this show, please consider taking a moment of your time to rate and review wherever you listen to our podcast. We really appreciate it. Until next time.
Cheers. Bye.